So the other day you had an assignment, this assignment, and I'm going to go through, there are two for each type of thing, I think, generally, and I'm going to show you one of each, and then maybe one of each, and then describe how to do the rest. I won't do the whole assignment, but if you haven't done this assignment yet, or you need a review of it, I will show you. So the first one is how to construct a copy of an angle. Well, it always starts with first making a line. We're going to draw one line, okay? And I typically will just mimic that line somewhere. So down below this picture, I'm just going to draw a line. I don't know how much space I need, so I generally tend to put it a little bit to the right, but definitely down. You've got lots of space here before the next problem. So I'm going to put it down from this one, and then maybe over a little bit, so like that. And I want to make sure that my line might be a little bit longer. I definitely don't want to go shorter. And the idea is you're going to set your compass to a distance that you know will cross. If I put the point at the vertex, I know when I rotate it, it will hit that line, and when I rotate, it'll hit that other line, because I'm going to make a mark, and I also need to make sure that it's going to hit that line. So here's why that's important. Put your compass point on the vertex, and I'm going to swing a full arc. You really don't need to make the full arc, but I'm going to swing it so you can kind of see the process. So there, and then this is going to be the vertex of my copy right there. So I'm going to put the center of my compass, my point, right there, and I'm going to make an arc at least as big as the one I see up above. And since I don't really know the angle, we're not using our protractors to measure, I'm just going to make an arc that I know is at least as big as that. So I almost went a complete semicircle, which is definitely more than that. Now, you're going to use your compass as the measuring tool. You're going to measure how wide this is open. If this were jaws of an alligator or whatever, you would measure how much that is open by putting your point on one end and adjusting your compass. And it does help if you have a sharp compass lead, but that looks like it's right on track right there. Okay, that's how big it's open. I'm going to transfer this measurement down to this one right here, and I'm going to make a mark, and that intersection right there is where I'm going to draw the line. Now it is hard to see, and there is room for error because we have let me see if I can get this camera to focus a little bit more. The camera may not focus that close. One more try, and then if not, there we go. So you can see that it hits right about there. And so I'm going to put my pencil there, slide my straight edge to it, and rotate my straight edge until I get to that line, and then I'm going to start here and draw up, and that's how you copy an angle. All right, moving on to the next one. It says construct an angle whose measure is twice that of the given angle, of the other angle. So again, I'm going to copy this one, and I will start with a line down below, down and a little bit to the right, and always a little bit bigger. I will set my compass to a distance that I know will cross all the lines, so at least as big as the smallest line involved, which works, and you make an arc. And it's a lot like the first process because we're actually measuring the angle, but we're going to apply the measurement twice. So there, and this is going to be the vertex of the new one. But now when I make this, I'm going to have to guess how big that arc has to be. Well, that's not a fourth of a circle. I mean, I can tell that it's at least that big, and so I'm going to double that and go almost, I could probably do half a circle and be safe. There's no need to do a full circle, but anyway, I know that's safe. I kind of know that it's going to end right around here, and I take my compass and I come over and I measure this, and if you'll notice in this particular example, only this one, it won't happen here, but it looks like it just so happens that the size of the opening is also the size of that. Now that's just a coincidence, but that means that this angle right here must be a 60-degree angle because we have an equilateral triangle. If I were to sketch, and that has nothing to do with making a copy, but if I were to sketch this, you would see that all three sides are the same. That side from there to there is the same. That side is the same as that side. Anyway, that's just an observation that you should notice. So I've measured this. I'm going to put the center of my compass right here, and I'm going to mark it there, and then I'm going to mark it again, moving my point to the top of the first right there. So there's one opening of this, and then here's another opening right there. I've just pasted, or not pasted, but transferred. I will then put my pencil at the vertex. Actually, probably smarter to put it here because it's hard to see. And then I'll rotate the compass, protractor, and there's the duplicate angle. This here is 60 degrees, if my sketch was accurate, and this is 60 degrees, so the whole thing is 120. This we already observed was 60 because it was equilateral. Okay, next one over. Flip the page and go. Okay, flip the page and go to the other. We're going to do subtraction. Construct an angle whose measure is equal to the difference of the measures of the angle. So we're going to take this angle and subtract the measure of that angle. And it's very much the same principle. It's hard to tell, but the vertex of this angle is right about there. Okay, very hard to see, very hard to make that little mark. But it looks almost like a 180-degree angle. Maybe it's 175, 178, who knows. But I'm going to make a line down here and a little bit to the right, there. Set your compass to a distance that you know will hit every line involved. So that's going to work, that's going to work, that's going to work. Then I will make an arc from one side of the angle to the other. And I really don't need to continue the arc. I just need a mark here and here. So I will show you what I mean on this angle. All I really need is a mark right there, and oh my gosh, I'm sorry, my hands are in the way, and right there. Okay. And I'm going to need a mark on this one, and this one has to be at least as big, or I need to see the end of it. In this case, it really does help on this third one that I'm making. It does help to draw the whole arc, because I don't know where it's going to be when I take this one. I'm essentially copying this one down and then measuring this and taking away from what I just did. So like in the last one we did, we're going to measure the size of the opening. So put your compass point right there and adjust your compass until it hits right here. And it's going to be very difficult to see because my curve, like, for example, when I draw that intersection, you'll see how the circles, it's very hard to see where they overlap. Same thing's going to happen down here. So make sure my compass does not move. So it's very hard to see where they intersect, but we're going to ballpark it. And then we're going to measure this, shrink it to match the size of the opening. And that, nope, maybe a little bit smaller. That looks about right. So I'm going to go to where I think it intersects, which is difficult to see, but it looks like maybe right there. And I'm going to measure back on the line. So this first arc measurement is the first angle, and then I put my compass at the end and measured back, which is subtracting. And then I'll put my pencil here, slide my straight edge to it, go to the vertex, and do that. So if this were angle A and this were angle B, this angle is the difference between A and B. Moving on now. I'm not going to show how to do a 30 or a 45 because a 30-degree angle can be derived once you know how to make a 60, And a 45-degree angle can be made once you know how to make a 90, just by cutting them in half. So I'm going to go to the 60-degree angle first. And a 60-degree angle, if you remember from the other side, is really 1/3 of an equilateral triangle. So if I set my compass, if I measure a line here, and I measure that, and I make an arc up here and an arc up there, I will create an equilateral triangle. So just like this, I'm just going to make maybe a small mark. I'm not going to actually measure the mark with my ruler, or the line, sorry, but I will take my compass and I will measure the distance. And I really don't have to measure the distance. I could, in fact, I'm not going to. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to put my compass here, and I'm going to make a mark on the line where my compass mark is. And then I'm going to make another one up here for wherever the top of that triangle would be. Then my compass point will be here on that. I could have actually erased that or done here, but my compass would be set to be bigger. So anyway, here. So now this distance is the same as that distance, which is the same as that distance. So I do have all the vertices for an equilateral triangle, and if I connect this point with that end point down there, this is a 60-degree angle. You need to recreate the same thing up here, but only bisecting the angle. So I'm gonna, well, actually, yeah, if there's time, I'll do it. But anyway, you just do an angle bisector, which means your compass, in fact, I will do that here, but I want you to completely redraw it here. So let's imagine we're on number 7 now, and you draw this. You've already got these marks. All you have to do is make 2 additional marks out in the open from those 2 marks there, and then cut it in half. This will cut that 60-degree angle in half and give you a 30-degree angle. So you would need to repeat this process up here. Don't just do it down here. I want to see you do it twice. Now, the 90-degree angle, there's several ways to do it. You can make a perpendicular bisector, whatever. Most of you are comfortable with that. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to draw a line. And actually, I'm going to do one. I'm not going to measure the whole line. I'm going to make a mark like I did before. I'll make a mark right here. It's very similar to what I did to find a point above. I'm going to do the same thing down below also. So with my compass mark that I made right there, I'm also going to make a mark above and a mark below. And then I'll put my compass on the point that I made here, make a mark above, whoops, don't move it, and make a mark below. Connect the two. And I don't really need the whole thing. I only need this part because this is the 90-degree angle, and this is 90 degrees. All right, so far so good. Then for number 8 up above, you're just going to do the angle bisector like I did for this other one. And I can show you my compass is already, I've got a distance set that will work. So I'm going to, angle bisector means I make a mark above on the line and I make a mark on the other side of the angle. Then I'm going to use those marks to make a mark out in the open, just like this. Now, this mark is exactly the same distance from here to here, and when I connect these lines, this point to the vertex right here, this is a 45-degree angle. So again, you will recopy. You'll have to make a 90-degree angle up here and bisect it. But that's all you need to do for this assignment.